welcome to another episode of I Take Me With Me. In this episode, Amruta and I will be discussing the use of art in healing. Amruta, just like me, is also an advocate for using arts, such as dancing, for healing and wellness. Okay, so I remember we started our conversation a few weeks ago on what sort of healing we do, and I was telling you about that I work with like the power of the thoughts and emotions and how those can be used to heal like any bodily pain and illness, and that's sort of experienced on my journey. So I believe that creative expression and self-concept and the release of stress are big factors for change. And I know you were agreeing with that too. And I'm also actually starting to see that self-love and self-acceptance, self-worth are also huge factors in healing and to improve one's life.
Yeah. Completely. I totally think that like the basis of so much of healing actually comes from, I think, self-worth and self-love on many angles, because I think that a lot of us are just, on so many levels, we just have so many limiting beliefs, and we're just conditioned in so many ways to believe that we're not worth something. And it's like, there's so many layers of that. I mean, just when you think that you've got it cleared, there's like, one more layer that will show up, and like, wow, like, I didn't realize this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I'm seeing with me as well, because it's like self-love, like the word is, I feel like it's used so commonly now, and I guess maybe it can be like a cliche, but I feel like there's so, like you said, there's so many layers, and I have realized that too. Like, I probably started on this journey maybe in like 2020, and then now, like, recently I'm realizing, as I'm learning more about myself and like reading more into just like self-awareness, that there's so much more to it, and it's like you discover new things, I feel like, in like every phase.
Definitely. Absolutely. It's interesting that you said that your journey started in 2020, because I feel like during the pandemic, I think a lot of people were kind of awakened on some level, where they realized that, that a lot of self-love and self-worth was lacking. And like, even for me, personally, I feel like during the pandemic time, I mean, I guess because we were home, or maybe it was just the environment, or maybe it was just the fear around us kind of in the air. I think that it triggered a lot of just stuff in us that I think forced us all to kind of look within and, just take a look to understand, like, what exactly is going on. And, like, so many things I think came up for a lot of people, a lot of healing, a lot of release. I think a lot of people were just awakened as well to, like, what it is to be their true self.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like I actually haven't met many people who have experienced that. I feel like there are plenty, like you said, like people are awakening, and I feel like with the pandemic, that is what kind of led them to do it. And I feel like, even personally speaking, we were all kind of like stuck at home, right? Like we couldn't go out, we couldn't do other things. So I feel like for me, it like kind of pushed me to look at things that were wrong in my life, that were going wrong, and that weren't okay, that I needed to change or fix. So it just really helped me just go within. And I think that is where truly my like self journey started, just like going within myself. And I was into like meditation, and I was learning more about, all of this since maybe like 2017. But yeah, it wasn't until the pandemic happened that I actually just kind of sat with myself, and I'm like, okay, I need to do a lot of healing, and it's time, like I need to do it now.
I agree. For me, it was, I think my journey started in 2016, 17. And then I started getting into theta healing when I was in 2018. I would like actually, go to someone who was a practitioner, and I would, do sessions with her. And then in 2019, when I got certified to practice myself, and then 4 months later, the pandemic hit. I think during the pandemic, I think that, like, the 3 years prior that I've been kind of doing some self-work, I think led me to the point where during the pandemic, as you said, I really was like, okay, what are things wrong, and I think it gave me that self-love that I had been kind of working on until that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think that self-love gave me the courage to be like, okay, these are things I need to step away from. This is
Right.
what's not right for me. You know, like, this is not, even though, you know, you may have known a truth, but I think you cross this point when you're like, okay, I know this is wrong, but I'm actually going to do something about it.
Right.
Because I think at times, even though we know that this is not our path or this is not for us, I think sometimes we're just, okay, but like, how can I get out of this? How can I say no? You know, like, how am I going to, you know, what are people going to say? How can I face all this? Like, you know, am I being selfish? Because I think the main question that comes up is, you know, am I being selfish for doing what I think is right for me?
Right.
And I think that once we, you know, have that level of love and courage in us to be like, no, it's not selfish. It's needed. It's right for me. And it's okay to do so. So I think just like you said, even for me during the pandemic, a lot of things changed in my life where I was able to have the courage to be like no and yes and like really choose what like only what resonated for me. And I think after that, you know, it's just been amazing to see my own personal growth after that, of being able to really just, you know, like set boundaries and do things that I didn't have the courage to do before. I was very like, you know, timid. I'm like, oh, who's gonna say what and how am I gonna do this? And like fear of like, you know, losing relationships and, you know, everyone had to like me and that kind of thing.
Right.
And after a point, I think you're just like, you know, it's okay. Like you have to do what's meant for you, and not everyone is, you know, here and like on the journey with you. Like, you know, there are those who are there, and there are those who may just come for a season, and you have to accept that. But I think that courage to accept all those things comes with that self-love and self-acceptance journey, like I already mentioned as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You put that into words so well because, and like you said in the beginning, right, it's about, like, first having that awareness and acknowledging that there is something wrong and it needs to be changed or needs to be healed, and then actually taking action towards it. And for me as well, like, I think it was then, I mean, I had, like, kind of, you know, delved into therapy a bit before, but it never quite, like, stuck with me, never quite, like, helped me too much. But it wasn't until, like, 2020 where I was like, no, okay, I have had a lot of trauma in my life and I need to heal from it. I need to move on from it so I can improve my life. I can have a better life. So these actions and these relationships and patterns, and they don't repeat, and I need to do something about it. And like you said, it's like learning, like I learned to put myself as priority and to set those boundaries and put myself first, not think about how it's going to be hurting others, family, friends, and who are meant to be on this journey. They will support you, they will move on with you, right? And those who are meant to fall off, they will, because that's just, you stop aligning with certain people and you go separate ways, and that's okay, because that's what life is. That's what, like, the whole you know, like, the spiritual journey is about as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's what most South Asians face is right there, what you said about you know, like, being able to just accept that not everyone is going to be there. Because I think that, you know, especially in South Asian culture, there's such a mentality of, okay, if you're together with someone for a long time, you know, that's your success. But that's not true.
I agree, yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, maybe it is I'm not sure if it's our community or maybe it's just how humans tend to think that if we have these friendships and we've had these friendships for 7-10 years, they're gonna keep on going. And I was I used to think of that. And I feel like as I started on my, you know, just my self-healing journey, I did lose friends. I lost friends maybe that I had known for like 7 years. And I feel like that's where we stopped seeing eye to eye. And it just, they were completely different than me, and I didn't realize that before. But once I put that focus within me and I started to give myself precedence over anything else, I started to see there are people who don't align with me, and that's okay. I mean, it's hard to, you know, let people go, and I'm an empath, so I feel like I feel things very deeply. And so I feel like it's been a process to, like, be okay with that, come to terms with it, that it's okay to feel my emotions, and it's okay to, you know, to be wanting to work things out. But when things are not meant to be, when people are not meant to be in your life, it's better to just let that go and embrace it and move on.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, as you, like, rightly said, when you start to begin your self-love journey, I think you start to see that there's imbalance in relationships. And I think that, you know, like, I think to a certain point, we're only taught in life, you know, and you know, like, I guess in society, that we only learn about or see a relationship as, like, oh, it is with your spouse. But in reality, I think, like, everything, like, you know, with our moms, our dads, our friends, our cousins, our siblings, I think every relationship is a relationship. And I think every relationship should be, you know, analyzed. to some extent, that, are they contributing? Because if we're feeling some kind of uneasiness or imbalance in it, I think it should be addressed. But I think that's something that not all of us are taught to look at, because it's like, oh, no, it's a family, they're 100%, they have to stick by you, and, and you can't, or if they're a close friend, no, like, they have to be near you. But I think in reality is that sometimes those are the people who we have to kind of take a look at and say, are they, are we on the same page or not?
Right. Like, are they serving me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, are they here for my highest good? Are they really there? Like, are we really able to connect? Or is it that, like, I'm putting in more effort just to keep it, just because we've been friends for 10 years?
Exactly.
And for that reason. And if that's the only reason that we're friends now, then is that even a reason to continue being friends,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like, I know for me on my journey, like, especially a lot of my family was like, oh, like, you've been friends with these people for so long, and now you're just dropping them. And I'm like, I'm not dropping them. It's just that, like, we've kind of had a mutual understanding that, like, this isn't the same that it was even 5 years ago, and it's okay to just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
But, to the world, it may seem that, oh, we're selfish, but in reality, I think it is selfless, and there is a difference.
There is a difference, yeah. And I feel like with family and, like, close people, I think that's the hardest, where to apply these boundaries, because it's just, I feel like with me personally, right, maybe our community too, like, I grew up with my parents, like, they've always been around me, right? And then at one point, I just had to realize, is it for my highest good? Is it making me happy? Is it making me joyful? Are they supporting me? Or am I just, like, putting myself out there way too much, and I'm an open and honest person, and I have so much love to give, but am I getting that back? Am I getting that back from them? Am I getting that back, like, from my dad, for example? And if I've tried it, I've practiced it, and I know there's certain things that it's not being reciprocated, then it's better to maintain that distance. And I don't think it's about, like, cutting people out, or even with family, like, it's not about, like, you're not going to talk to them, or it's not, like, you don't have a relationship anymore. I think it's putting yourself first and knowing that if certain things, certain conversations, certain topics are not serving you, there's no point in bringing them up with certain people. And it's about, like, preserving your energy and protecting your energy and not letting anyone kind of step over that.
You're so spot on there. I 100% agree. Because I think that it's more about, like, drawing those boundaries to understand that, okay, to what extent am I going to allow this person's energy in my circle? Like, am I going to let them influence my decisions and what I think of myself? Or am I going to set the boundary that, this person is going to kind of, stay in this lane, and I'm not going to let that happen? And you have the power.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for a long time, we kind of believe that. And I didn't actually know. I mean, like, I knew, but I think I really realized what it means to, like, be empowered. When I was like, what it really means is that I no longer see myself as a victim of, like, oh, they did this to me. But it's a matter of, like, no, this happened. I didn't do anything about it. But now I have the power to do something about it. And now I am empowered because I'm taking my power back. So, like, now I can do something about it. I can set the boundary. I can ask them to stop. Right. I can, create those lines so that I can protect my power and my energy. And that's what it means to take my power back.
Yeah, you're so
right.
I've
recently kind of, like, understood this.
You're so right. And it reminds me of this quote I saw a few weeks ago, and it said something to do with, like, you're not a child of a dysfunctional home anymore. Now you're grown up, and you can take the steps to create boundaries, to create a better life for yourself, and to, to help yourself get out of that mentality, to work on yourself and remember that the past is over and you're not that person who was in this environment that you used to be.
Yeah. I feel like the story that we tell ourselves of ourselves, if that makes sense. It's like, maybe 5 years ago, our story that we would tell ourselves of ourselves was like, oh, I'm like this, I'm like that, and all these things happen, but, I'm here. And it's about changing that story that we tell ourselves of, like, oh, no, now I am this. Like, I'm no longer a helpless person, but I'm now powered. Like, I can do things. I have the ability. I have the confidence.
Yeah, for sure.
I have the courage.
And I think that's where the self-concept kind of comes. And there's so many names for it. Like, there's narrative therapy. There's, you like, working on your self-concept. There are affirmations, right? So you're, like, changing your story, like you said, of what you were in and what you told yourself then, and now where you are and how you're looking at your life right now. And that kind of shapes everything. around you your whole life, your present and especially the future to come. So that is very important.
Definitely. And I think also, like, you know, like, as like, I know when we had initially spoken, we connected over the topic of like emotions, and I think that you know, like, just finding those limiting beliefs within your emotions, like, you know, like, if you're feeling a lot of anger, or if you're feeling anxiety, or any of these like strong negative emotions, it's so important to just dig and understand, why am I feeling these things, and where is it coming from, and, like, you know, because at the end of the day, it is going to affect your health. It is going to affect your health and your physical health in the long run if you're not answering these questions and these patterns that are showing up in your life of, you know, like, all these emotions that are not serving you.
Yeah, absolutely. Emotions are so powerful. I feel like working through those emotions and being aware of those emotions is a sure way to heal your life and, you know, heal your body. And that's what I've experienced on my journey as well. Is that what you've seen with you as well?
Absolutely, the same thing. So there's a mechanism in theta healing called digging, which I'm sure is probably used in other aspects of healing as well. But basically, it's like, you know, you identify an emotion. Like, let's say, you know, you say something, and then I'm upset about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, she said this, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So the natural tendency of what one would do is, oh my gosh, you know, like, let me just release my anger, which is important. But I think to take it one level deeper is to ask yourself questions after, like, why am I upset about this?
Right.
What about it is upsetting me? Like, you know, what is the exact reason? And being able to really do that from a place of love, not judging yourself like, oh, look.
Right, not criticizing yourself.
You know, exactly. And being able to just dig, and just ask yourself those why questions until you can find a root cause. Maybe it's that, you know, what this person said, maybe parallels something that you were told as a child, and that childhood trauma is still there, and you haven't released it. Or you can always, you know, look at a pattern and say, okay, maybe I've been upset at the same thing said by different people for the past X amount of years. So it is a pattern.
Right.
And maybe I need to break it, or maybe release this belief that I have in myself, or release this trauma that I'm holding on to, because, you know, our body does store all this trauma as well.
It does. Yeah, just going, just finding more insight into what is triggering it. Like, why am I being angry at this? Why do I find this annoying? Like, why is this, you know, making me upset? And what has happened in the past, which was probably a similar situation, and I might have reacted the same way, and just kind of digging deep into it and seeing what is causing it. And I, in my therapy work, I'm glad you brought up theta. You said theta healing, right? Yeah. And I did EFT. It's emotion focused therapy. So so my therapist really used that with me, and I was not aware of that concept before. And every time anything traumatic would come up for me, and he'll just slow me down, and, you know, he'll help me close my eyes and just pay attention to my body. And I feel like that was so powerful for me, just to pay attention to how my stomach is reacting, how my heart is reacting, how my breathing is. My breathing is shallow, and what emotions it's bringing up. And he'll just sit with me. He'll just sit in silence, and if there be tears coming up, and tears would come up, and he would just let it flow. And I think that practice with me, like, doing that constantly, made me more self-aware and made me focus more on how my body is reacting, because I never thought of that before. And like you said, like, our emotions are affecting our body, right? So there would be so many things that would have happened, and we feel it in our body, but my attention would never go on it. Like, my stomach would be in a knot, and my breathing would be off balance, and my heart would be pounding, like, out of my chest, but I never would pay attention to it. And for me, it was like, no, I don't feel okay, or I'm about to go into panic, or I'm feeling anxiety, but I never knew that it's felt through the body, and my body is in that fight or flight mode. And to pay attention, to just give it time, just, like, look inside, like, how is my body reacting?
Absolutely. And I know that you also do movement therapy, right? Through dance, you help people to, like, express these same emotions and how they're feeling, and
so I actually haven't. That is something that I want to incorporate in my field, like, moving forward. So I'm big on dancing, and I've been, like, dancing for 10 years, like, personally, professionally, just, like, choreographing, performing. But using dancing as healing is something I want to incorporate, like moving on. And I feel like that's also something I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I feel like I am doing a lot more, I'm understanding a lot more, I'm doing a lot more research on it. And for me, I guess I always used it as a healing art for myself, like unknowingly. And so I feel like whenever like stress would come up and I would go through a difficult time, dancing, putting on music would instantly put me in a different mood. Like, it just instantly takes me to like a different world, and everything is fine, everything is joyful and happy, and things are perfect. So I feel like unknowingly I had been using that, and now I've been researching more into it and seeing how that does help bring out emotions, and it helps with wellness, and it does help with a lot of like mental health problems as well, like self-image, body image, self-esteem, improving confidence, even like communication skills. Like people, I guess, going through anxiety, depression, PTSD, eating disorders. It helps with a lot. So what has your experience been like with, I know you said you are into dance movement therapy as well.
Yeah. So for me, so I'm also a dancer as well. So I started training professionally when I was 11, and then from then on, I started with Indian classical, and then in high school and college, I kind of explored other dance forms like contemporary ballet and some folk and things like that. And then so my kind of journey of through dance is kind of also like it parallels my journey of also embracing myself. Because I really wanted to, be a dancer when I was a teenager. But I was so scared of what would people think if I said I wanted to, pursue a career in dance.
Right.
So out of that fear, I chose not to do it, and I chose another career path. And then I kind of regretted it and really missed it. And I just stopped dancing at that point. I just stopped dancing in general. I stopped my classical classes. I stopped everything. And it was really bad 2 years. And then after that, I started dancing again slowly as I graduated from college. And then I kind of came back slowly through Bollywood, and I did some folk, some bhangra, some garba, these kind of things. And I came back to classical. And then I realized, I had a passion for it. And I think at an older age, I was able to understand that, like, okay, I'm allowed to be this. And this is why I didn't do it at that age. But, age doesn't stop me. I can still keep going with that training now and still pursue a career in dance, and I can still do it. And now that I think about it, I did use like freestyle dance a lot, just to kind of like get my mind off things if I was angry. But I think, I came to a point where I never really connected my mind and body with dance. Like I was able to dance, I would dance, but I wouldn't really express emotion when I was dancing. So as I came to this realization, I think I came across this concept of dance movement therapy, and then I actually just am finishing a course on it right now too. So I'll be getting certified to be a dance movement therapy facilitator.
Wow.
So I feel like in the past almost about 6 months that I've kind of been in a course, I've also started to really understand how to, even in my own dance, how to just incorporate that in mind and body and really use my emotions to release when I dance. And that it's not separate, but it has to be together, and just kind of how to do that, and also how to teach it as well. But I do think that dance is such a powerful tool, and actually my next project is I want to study some of the Indian folk dances, because like I know, for example, with like garba and bhangra as well, and there's so many others, but I know these two in specific are like very prominent, especially in the U.S. And they're known for being, very happy, very high, upbeat, like very like joyful types of songs and music, and also movement. So I want to understand more as to like how these, I'm sure at some point they would have been a mechanism for healing.
Yeah.
Like maybe back in the day when it was just like villages and everything. I'm sure that dance was probably a way for everyone to just like express and release and enjoy.
Right.
So my next kind of little project is to kind of understand more on how that has affected it.
That would be a very interesting topic to dive into and to look more into. And like I said, I think as I have been using dance for myself, I think it's not always, I feel like when I use dance for myself, it wasn't always just like, I'm feeling joyful, it's all happy and all that stuff, which is majority of it. But I feel like when I've had heavy emotions, when I've been feeling emotional, or there's something I need to unburden, I would, I think contemporary is a great style for it. I think I would just put on some music that I can feel, that I can connect with my emotions, and just let it out, and just kind of freestyle and contemporary, and just let myself, like, give myself that space and the room, and just let my body express whatever is coming out. And then if tears are coming out, while I'm doing it, I think that has helped me a lot. So I feel like even without, like, professionally diving into it, I've used it for myself, and I feel like it is a great way to help people connect with their emotions and their bodies, because I feel like dance itself is just, it's an art form that, it's all about your body, and it's about, like, being in that present moment and having, connecting with your emotions and your mind, and just freeing yourself in that moment. So it is a form of, like, a meditative, healing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I actually think that with dance now, I think that slowly there is, like, like, I think in between, I think with dance, there's a, not, I don't know if it's a stigma or what you would call it, but there was this kind of wave that came where, like, it was all about just technique and all about just, like, doing fast movement and just dancing. But I think now there's a slow awakening coming as well. They're like, okay, dance has to be done with emotion. Like, there has to be equal importance given to your emotion, your expression, and how you feel on the inside through your expression. Because if we're just dancing and just moving our hands, then, there's not, we're dancing, but then the real expressions from within as an artist comes when you're able to really channel those emotions.
Channel emotions, yeah. That's a very good point. I feel like I've experienced that when I used to, I think, undergrad, when I used to dance in teams in a dance company. I think it was a lot about just, like, performing, right? Just, like, putting a lot of songs together and just having these fast-paced movements and these quick transitions, and doing it for the sake of, entertainment or performance. And
completely.
Right.
Exactly.
And I feel what you said is channeling your emotions, and not having it be a competition or, for the sake of a performance. It's about actually just connecting with your mind and body, and letting those emotions flow through you and flow through your body.
Definitely. And I mean, in some way, I like competitions because, it's a fun way to get your adrenaline rushing and do all these things. But on the other side, I also kind of feel like, I'm kind of double-sided about it, where I feel like, should we really be putting, art in a competitive state? Because I feel like art is such a form of expression that how can we really judge, and how can we, compete that? I mean, I know there are pros and cons, like, on both sides, but I sometimes think about this question of, like, are we actually doing justice by having a dance competition?
That's very interesting. I never thought of that. I feel like with dance competitions, maybe it's more geared towards, like, athleticism, or with sports. I feel like if people are competing in sports, I feel like in that sense, because then that can be argued for sports as well, right? So if I'm playing tennis in order to compete, then there's a different mindset towards it. Whereas if I'm playing tennis to just kind of blow off steam, and de-stress myself, and just be able to connect with myself and nature, and just be in the present moment, then it's used in a different way.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that can be said for dancing as well. And I feel like in generic, just with healing arts, I feel like there's so many creative ways that people can express themselves. So I feel like even if a person is not a dancer, or they don't want to go into dancing, even though I do believe everyone should try it, I feel like it's amazing, like, the way dance makes you feel, and the way, what you find out and learn about yourself through that movement. But I feel like people who are into maybe painting or drawing or anything else that art related, I can't think of other examples right now, but I feel like that also can be very healing for them, depending on what they connect with the most.
Definitely. Like, I know for me as a person as well, sometimes, like, I mean, I used to, so even though, like, I am a dancer, believe it or not, I used to actually not always use dance as my first mechanism for, like, expression or, like, healing. I used to write.
Hmm.
I mean, I still do write, but I think now that, I've kind of started to, like, really understand the importance of mind body, now I'm able to actually use movement as, like, expression and being able to heal.
Right.
But for a long time, I would just write, or maybe I would draw something, or, like, paint, just to, like, heal and kind of, like, let my emotions flow.
That kind of, yeah, you kind of reminded me of that.
Okay, well, I'm a dancer, I should probably use it.
Yeah. You reminded me of myself writing as well. I used to journal a lot. I mean, I still do, but I feel like maybe like as a kid as well, I never thought about it. I feel like my first way of letting out my emotions was through journaling. I would just write out whatever I'm feeling, whatever's going on, and just draw like little like figures or whatever I was feeling like in that journal itself. And I think that just came naturally. I never even thought about doing it. And I feel like that for me was also like my go-to.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's amazing how I think as artists, when we really channel and awaken ourselves on all levels, I feel like, everyone does have the talent, like on some level, like not everyone, maybe the next, Shreya Ghoshal or like,
right.
big singer, dancer, or artist, but I think all of us have that talent in us, to at least on some level, just to use it even as a medium of expression.
We do, yeah. Do you believe, what's your take on this? Do you think everyone has a creative side to them? Can everyone be creative, or is that just specific to certain people, certain personalities?
I think everyone can. I think everyone has it. I just think that it's a matter of awakening, because I think that to a certain point, like even for me, like I knew I had all these things in me, but I was way too scared to even admit that I wanted to, really awaken my creative side of me. Yeah. So even though I knew I had it, I was just so like, no, like I can't, like, what will people think if I, like want to, learn singing at age 20 or whatever that it is.
Right.
I think that once we really realize our potential and unlock all of our talents, we have so much talent, on both the creative side as well as the, I guess left brain side or whatever that you call it. On both sides, I think all of us have both. I think that, when we're able to balance it is when we're like really balanced as a human. Because I think, if we're also, too much on the creative side and we have like, no balance here, then sometimes, you feel like, okay, what do I have to me other than just my creativity?
Right.
But I feel like if you have a good balance, like as a person, then it's like you're able to do both.
Yeah, we're able to tap into left and right side of our brains. And I'm glad you said balance, because I feel like for women, it's definitely, we're kind of, I am big on, women empowerment, and I feel like that's very crucial for women to kind of tap into that feminine side and have that. And I feel like in general for everyone, it's good to have that balance of masculine and feminine. And from my personal experience, I growing up I was mostly, I had this masculine energy in me, which were just, yeah. Yeah, I think it's just the way I grew up. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was a survival mechanism, whatever it was, maybe part of my personality and maybe the trauma I went through, everything that was going on. So I was mostly always tapped into my masculine energy. And like a couple years ago, I started realizing, no, I have this feminine side. It needs to be balanced. And currently I'm working on that to bring out that feminine side, and that it's okay for me to feel, the energy that a female possesses. And I feel like
It's so funny you said that.
Yeah, go on.
No, I think it's so funny you said that. Like, I literally had the same story where I think it was in 2019. I started to realize, like, I really, I just kind of felt like, okay, like, I don't have my, anything feminine or creative or like, I just kind of felt it. And then I read a book. I think it's called Powerful and Feminine. And I kind of, did the work in that book, and I was like, wow. And then I think that year, this was in January, but I read the book and I really, started to actually work on myself from there.
Yeah.
That year, I got so many creative opportunities to teach dance. So actually, I acted in 3 short films that year.
Wow.
So I think that once I tapped into my creativity, I kind of opened myself to also receiving opportunities that were in the creative field.
That's amazing. And that was coming into that from that feminine energy.
Definitely.
And I feel like a lot of people are close to it. I feel like as women, we are, I guess, easily kind of more perceptible to kind of having that in us. And once we tap into it, we get all these, like you said, you got all these creative opportunities. That's so wonderful. And then I feel like with men, I think it's harder for them to tap into it, because it's like even in our societies and communities, men are always taught to, don't cry, like you have to be masculine, you have to have this like certain type of macho kind of personality. And I feel like it's harder for men to tap into that feminine side and that creative side. And so I think in my experience, I've seen women being a lot more creative, or like you said, like once they're able to tap into it and once they're able to be awakened on that side and be able to balance that. But hopefully maybe like men are open to it, some men are, and I feel like it would be very empowering for men as well to be able to have that balance.
Absolutely, definitely. And actually, I was reading this in my DMT course like a few months ago, where I know we've all looked at this as kids. You know the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? It's like a pyramid, and it has like self. So I started thinking about this, and I was like, maybe one reason why so many of us, because I think that even on the hierarchy of needs, I think the bottommost need is, your security and like, having house and
the basic needs.
But on an emotional level, I think that if those needs are not met, then we still feel that we're in survival mode. So I think we ourselves cannot get to the level of self-realization or, just really being our true self if we're constantly in survival mode. And I think maybe that could be a reason why many of us are not able to tap into our feminine and our creative, is because, we're always in the masculine, we're always in survival. How do I give? I cannot receive. I can only give and protect. And I cannot receive. So I think that self-love is so important in that journey of being able to, really tap into our feminine, because it's about, being vulnerable. And I think all of that can only happen once we're secure and we're able to, have a grounding and foundation in ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. That you made such a good point. Even with myself, I've noticed like I've always been the giver. I've always been giving. I think now I'm accepting myself in a way that no, it's okay for me to receive. I should be able to receive. I deserve to receive. And you explained that really well with the hierarchy. And it is survival mode. I feel like a lot of people, even when I look back and reflect on it, it was that masculine side was coming up because of that, survival mode. And once we're able to surpass those basic needs and be able to change our mindset and be able to embrace life and, embrace our worths, or have that self-love and acceptance, that's when we are able to tap into the joy. I guess creativity is like that joy of life, and be able to embrace that. And that's amazing. You put that really well.
So true. Thank you. It's so nice to talk to you. Like, I feel like just by talking to you, like, I like, so many great ideas are bouncing off each other, and such high vibe conversation. And this is so great.
Yeah, me too. This conversation is so great. That there are new ways of healing and just new ways of growth and getting better. Like, it's not just like a traditional medicine. There's just so much more out there now.
Absolutely. Definitely.
That concludes our conversation. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I hope you gained a new perspective on creative healing. I will be releasing an online course called Health Fluent that will guide you step by step in how to cultivate self-love, change your mindset, and heal any body problems you are facing. It will provide you with tools to train your mind so you can improve your health and life and prevent any diseases. To sign up for a free masterclass and to get on the wait list, please head over to the link in the description of this episode. You can also head over to my Instagram bio and click on the link. You will see a sign up button. I look forward to helping you transform your health and life. Talk to you soon. Bye.